Thank you, Sally. Yeah, woo, indeed. Peace, be still, and know that God is here. And feeling God's strength within you, you can relax and take the next right step. I feel it would be remiss if I didn't point out that song was written by Jim Llewellyn, who wrote numerous songs, New Thought, Unity songs, decades ago. Sally is the caretaker of a lot of that music, and I trust that we will be able to share more of that coming up, because I would love to hear more of his work. So, good morning. For anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Reverend Edward Trout. My pronouns are he, him. Apparently, I always get some kind of speaker thing going on. Don't know. I will just switch to this. It is fine. Not much. There's no tension on it. Anyway. Right. Oh, no. No tension. As I was saying, I'm passionate about empowering and uplifting others. I'm also passionate about creativity in the arts, and I'm an ordained interfaith minister through One Spirit Seminary out of New York, and it is a pleasure to be your speaker here today. I want to start with a question, and this is just a like history and familiarity thing. Who feels they have a good knowledge of the person Ona Judge, sometimes known as Oni Judge? Who knows Ona or Oni? Anybody? Okay. No, that is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So let me tell you about her life. She was born in April of 1774 to a woman named Betty, and her father was Andrew Judge. So Betty was one of Martha Washington's housemaid slaves. And Andrew Judge was a white indentured servant who worked for the Washingtons. At age 12, Ona was brought into the mansion to learn to be a housemaid. And apparently she did very well at this, and Martha wanted her around all the time. So 3 years later, when Ona was 15, she traveled with Martha to the president's home in New York City. So Ona had left her family for the first time, but it also opened up other doors to her. She saw new sights, she ate new foods, she attended the theater with Martha as a maidservant, and she met a sizable community of freed African Americans for the first time. So in 1796, when Ona would have been about 22 years old, Martha Washington's granddaughter got married. And Martha announced she was going to give Ona to the couple as a gift. In Ona's own words, she was, quote, determined to never be her slave, referring to the granddaughter, because the granddaughter had a reputation for being volatile and erratic, and her husband had a reputation for possible abuse. So Ona refused. In spring of 1796, members of the free black community helped her facilitate an escape. So on the afternoon of Saturday, May the 21st in 1796, Ona slipped out of the house while the Washingtons were having dinner. Those friends had already carried her belongings down to the port where she met them, and she ended up then sailing away on a ship. 2 days later, Washington's steward put an ad in the Philadelphia Gazette announcing Ona's escape and offering $10 reward for her capture and return. But Ona had fled to New Hampshire, where slavery was already functionally ending. Ona arrived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and she found lodging with a free African-American family, and she also secured work as a domestic servant, paid domestic servant. In January of 1797, she married a free man named Jack Staines, who was a sailor, and they moved into a home. So George Washington made 2 concerted efforts to bring her back. But even though he used federal resources and he enlisted friends, and he tried coercion and pressure, he failed. And she was never returned. In fact, in one case, the person that he called upon, who was indebted to him, was an abolitionist. So even though the man was indebted to him, he could not see it through. And another man that he tried to force to bring her back was someone who had already freed his own slaves and was now paying them to be freed, paid servants in his own home. And he warned Ona and said, you need to leave. So she had people looking out for her, aligned with her own freedom. So George Washington failed in those attempts. And Ona, or Oni, lived the rest of her life as a freed woman. Now, she may have been poor. She may have still been technically hunted, not protected by the law, but she was free. And she, years later, gave interviews, newspaper interviews, about exactly how and why she ran away, which is why we have that description saying that she would not work for her or be a slave for her. Last month, in January, the exhibit that told her story and the story of the other slaves who lived and worked in the president's house, which is a National Park Service site, was removed just prior to Black History Month. I will let you make of that what you will. But hearing her story makes me wonder, what kind of strength did she have to do that, to leave that situation, to leave the things she had known and go off into the unknown? That whole knowing the power of strength is within me, right? I relax and take the next right step. It felt to me in reading her story like her steps were guided, divinely guided, to take her to people that would help her, that would put her in places where she could be warned and be safe. And I want to be clear here, when we're taking the next right step, that in no way means it is the easy step. In fact, the right step is very often not easy in the least. Of course, it did help, as I said, that Ona was aligned with the people that she ended up in company with. They looked out for her. And sometimes even when we were taking the right step, we are not surrounded in the same way. Sometimes there are those moments or those people that will bring us down and bring us back. And it's up to us to find our power of discernment and determine, is this situation or is this person aligned with what I know as my next right step? Are they aligned with me in spirit, in the divine? This last week, as many of you know, I was out of town. I went to Houston for the week. And we had the CSZ, aka Comedy Sports, shareholders meeting. The first 2 days of the meeting actually got rather contentious, which can happen. It is business. I won't go into all the details, but the organization is loosely governed by an executive council. The executive council was looking at a major restructuring of the organization. And so on the first day, they laid out all of this plan on how things could be restructured. But the thing was, they had not given a warning to anybody that was attending the meeting that we were going to have this kind of discussion and this level of restructuring. So, as we know from unity, when we took two organizations, we're trying to bring them together in unity, it took a long time of talking and negotiation, and people agreed, people disagreed. It was that level of change that they were talking about, and they thought they could accomplish it in a 3-day meeting. And so that very first day, they were getting all kinds of questions and feedback and pushback and things, and you could see it starting to weigh on them. They started kind of collapsing in their emotions and their egos, and they were feeling like, oh, we thought this would be so easy. We thought you'd be thrilled at this. And for me, I understood why they wanted the change. And I also understood all the concerns coming from all of the other shareholders. What I noticed from that perspective, because as some in the room can attest, especially, Lynn, she's been through lots of meetings with me. I'm a listener, I'm an observer. I don't always speak up, but I'm always thinking. And so I was watching all of this going on, and we spent roughly 30 minutes that as I was taking my notes, I actually typed in 30 minutes of appeasing egos. Because and I love these people with all my heart, but it was their emotions and their egos that were sitting on the table. And those were the things that were getting pushed back and wounded. And so it took all of these other shareholders convincing the executive council. It's like, oh, we really appreciate all the work, and you didn't do anything wrong. It's like, I would disagree. I would say they should have given us a bigger warning, right? It's not that it's absolutely wrong, but it would have helped a lot for people to know what they were walking into. So again, those first 2 days were pretty tense. By Wednesday, I had already made plans. I'd looked at what was going on at Houston, in Unity of Houston, and Unity of Houston was having a sound healing journey going on Wednesday night. I was like, that sounds great. I did a sound bath at Parliament of World Religions. Let me do that thing. I invited all of the other managers, the shareholders. I was like, there's been some tension. Anybody want to come along? I'm doing this regardless, but if anybody else wants to come along, that's great. Nobody took me up on it, but I did give them a briefing the next day. So I got a Lyft driver to take me to Unity of Houston, and as I got in the car, there was very aggressive music playing. Not just like, tonically aggressive, but like lyrics that were offensive to me. So I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, well, this may not be the right music for a journey of like healing music. But I didn't say anything. It's his car. I thought, let him drive the way that he's comfortable driving. About halfway to the church, I didn't see him do anything, but the music changed, just completely shifted. And I heard the lyrics, I don't worry, because everything's going to be all right. Yes, it will. People keep talking. They can say what they like. But all I know is everything's going to be all right. No one can get in the way of what I'm feeling. I thought, well, that's much better. Alicia Keys, the song No One, was playing. And again, I didn't see him change anything, but like, well, that's a shift. That really shifted me. And then I got to the church, and I know Michael has. Anybody else been to Unity of Houston? It's a humongous church, but they also have an outbuilding that I think was their original church. It's now a chapel, essentially. There's a pyramid. And unfortunately, I didn't put a picture in the slides. I should have shared that with you. But I walk in, and I was there pretty early, so I was able to get a seat just comfortably. Musicians were warming up. And suddenly, I didn't see any smoke, but suddenly I'm like, I smell incense. It's like, that's dragon's blood. And maybe frankincense. Like, I'm smelling all of this. So I want to take a moment. I want to play you just a couple minutes of what I experienced. This Brother Thanet is the actual musician that I experienced, although he was there with two other musicians. So in the little clip that I have, it's going to be the same kind of sound, but he's supplementing with some other recordings that he pulls in for his work. So if you would, put your feet on the floor, put your hands in your lap, close your eyes if you are willing, or lower your gaze, and I want you to imagine that you are sitting in a moderately dark room, smelling the incense of your choice. If you hate incense, then pick another smell that really appeals to you. But I want you to engage that olfactory memory.
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44. We just built an app.
I know, that's really calming. I know. So take a nice deep breath in. Let that out. Nice deep breath in. Let that out. And then as we listen for the next couple of minutes, just let the love, let the grace, let the peace wash over you.
Meet nature's original multi.
There we go. Nope. We had worked around the advertisements earlier. Everything went well in rehearsal. Well, we'll give it a little while longer, and then if not, we'll just imagine the sounds. But oh, I know. It'll happen. I just don't want to be here. All right. So go back to that calm comfort that you had, and just listen. Take a nice deep breath in. Let that back out. So my experience with this music lasted almost an hour. I told Michael later, I felt 10 pounds lighter when I left that space. And then I got a lift back to my hotel. And the first song that came on sang, I had burdens on my shoulders all my life. I tried and tried to leave them all behind, but freedom's one thing I could never find. I said a prayer from the banks of a river. God met me there, showing me something better. My life was changed when I stepped into the water. Ain't seen my chains since I gave them to the Father. Hallelujah, I've been delivered. Where's my guilt? Where's my shame? I left it in the river. I left it in the river. It's from Jamie McDonald's song, Left It in the River. I'm not necessarily always a big fan of contemporary Christian, but boy, did that song hit correctly on that drive back. And I got back to the hotel, and it was still relatively early, and all of the other shareholders were out drinking, visiting, and I thought, oh, heavens, no. Like this, no, I just need to go to my room and melt. It was such a lovely grounding in spirit. And I really so much wished the others had joined me in that, because it still felt at that moment like they were holding on to the stubbornness, holding on to ego. There's a difference between stubbornness and determination. Determination, to me, as I see it, is part of strength. It's our ability to see things through, right? But stubbornness is about ego. It's about not wanting to change. It's about telling God how to show up, telling the universe what you expect it to do, not aligning yourself with it. Because God, the divine, is all possibilities, not limited possibilities. So if you're limiting your possibilities, you're not working in the divine. Do you regularly declare that you are blessed? Because you are. Blessed always, right? Because the love of God surrounds you. And let your joy be triumphant. Centering ourselves in the divine is how we remain determined but flexible. Centering ourselves in the divine is how we're able to discern what people and situations are aligned with us. Centering in the divine is how we find strength to do that which is ours to do. Whereas centering in the world, centering in the ego, that gets into a trap of predictive coding, which is a term I got from an article in Psychology Today, which I'm going to go into, called Why Some People Are So Stubborn. This was written by Susan Krauss Whitbourne, a PhD. And I loved that in the early part, she's like, think of a stubborn person you know. I thought, oh, okay. And sometimes that's me, right? But think of a stubborn person you know. And we so often want to associate that stubbornness with a personality trait, right? We think of them as sometimes self-important, narcissistic, arrogant, or just plain contrarian. Whatever you say, they want to say the opposite. They're going to be stubborn. But what if it's not really a personality trait? She posits, what if it's simply that they are unable to take in all of the information they need in that situation? In 2019, Daniel Yan from University of London worked with his colleagues to analyze the way people base their expectations on their previous experience. So what will happen is based on what has already happened. That makes sense, right? So they were looking at how we code that. And there was also a recent podcast, recent to me, podcast that I was listening to by Mayim Bialik. If we know Mayim Bialik, the actress and scientist, she has a podcast called Breakdown, and she was interviewing Dr. Nikolai Kushkushkin. And he was talking about memory. He was talking about how it's not just our brains, our neural stuff that has memory. All of our cells have memory. And he had gone through all kinds of experiments, and one thing that he found was repeated exposure to something made the memory stick in the cell longer. So, for example, if you have a 12-minute experience of something, it'll stick a bit, right? If you have 4 different 3-minute experiences that repeat, it's going to stick more. Even though it's the same amount of experience time, the 12 minutes, but because it's repeated, you'll hold on to it more. And I bring this up because our minds and our cells get all of this repeated information all the time, especially from the news, from social media, from society. We get bombarded with repeated information, and it's going to sit with us. And that becomes this, what they called in the brain, stubborn prediction or predictive coding. So, for example, to put that in a little bit of perspective, for me, I wear contact lenses. At night, I wear glasses. So I always take my glasses off, put them on the nightstand. Actually, it's on this side. Put them on the nightstand. And then when I wake up in the morning, I reach over to get my glasses. They are almost always in about the same place. So by predictive coding, my hand is going to go to the place where I expect them to be, regardless of where they are. So if they are not where I expect them to be, I might reach into nothing, or I might knock them off the nightstand, which happens, because my brain is doing the predictive coding, not looking at what the reality is. Does that all make sense to people, how predictive coding versus our reality? We go for what we expect versus what's really in front of us. So that stubborn prediction, that predictive coding, it becomes resistant to learning, right? And if you are not sure how to interpret something, your brain will make automatic assumptions about it. And so then what we get left with is just our stubbornness. That's not determination, that's stubbornness. How can we break those streaks? What can break us out of that? Play and novelty, new things to shake us up, will break us out of those patterns. The family in which you grew up, the society in which you grew up, the media that you have consumed, all of those things make us who we are, right? Make the brain go into those patterns. It creates that coding. Rituals and ritual gatherings do a lot to encode us. Who has ever had, who has regular holiday gatherings that have been pretty much the same over years with their families? Anybody had, like, you always get together on Christmas or whatever? Who has ever made a recommendation? Maybe this year, instead of getting together, we all travel. And how was it received? Sometimes people are like, great. But most of the time, that predictive coding goes, no, I want the ritual. I want that thing. This other thing I don't know. Give me the thing I know. We all fall into these routines, right? And we get into that hardwiring as just stubbornness. But it can be broken up. Ona Judge saw theater. She was exposed to the arts. And she met a whole new group of people in the freed African Americans in New York. That switched up her predictive coding. That helped her see there are other ways to be. On the other hand, in the stubborn individual, George Washington, father of the country though he may be, could not see past his coding, could not get to a place where I have to see all people as free, because that's not how he was coded. He was stubbornly holding on to that. And I don't think, for all of us who are stubborn or have stubborn folks around us, and in this case, George Washington, I don't think taking him to the theater for a night or exposing him to something, we went to the concert, that's not going to change all of that. But what can happen is when you expose somebody to something new that is only tangentially related to what they're stuck on. It doesn't have to be telling them how you see it as wrong. What you're saying is open your mind to possibilities. Possibility thinking. God is all possibilities. The universe is nothing but possibilities. Open your mind to that. Because as we know, sometimes when your view is less than traditional, you'll get pushback, sometimes even attack, right? But if you can introduce that what-if thinking, that possibility thinking, you can open up a mind. I know personally in my youth, there were a lot of programs for kids that were very multi-ethnic and all these, it was very loving world and everybody is equal kind of stuff. That's what I was raised on. My mother was an educator and she very much pulled for that too. Even the shows that we watched in the evenings as families, In my case, for the era that I grew up, All in the Family was a TV show we watched together. And it was comedy, but it got into some very heavy topics at times. And it also tended to show not one side is always right. It would show you flaws in logic on all sides. And it was a really intriguing show to open up possibility thinking in a family. I don't know enough of those kind of shows these days. I don't know enough that through entertainment really make us think and grow in a way that we feel safe in doing. I will say, going back to the shareholders meeting, not to leave you wondering, ultimately on that last day, we all came back together, kumbaya, we all love each other. But things that came up, and I'll share some of these. And this is why we still all love each other and stick together. There was talk of what we want to do is build shorter walls and bigger circles. What we want to do is take care of our people. What we want to do is keep our people safe. What we want to do is celebrate all of us, each of us for who we are. That's why I'm part of this worldwide organization. Like, those are the things that we come back to as fundamentals. And we can all go, yes. We'll table that structured discussion, right? We'll come back to that, but we can come together on these. Because that, for me, is part of what is mine to do, all of those things. For Ona, after going to the theater, after meeting those new friends, she moved from visualizing her freedom to creating it. It wasn't easy, but it was the right step. So what is yours to do? How do you live and love and serve in a holy, holy way? Where are you showing up as God-centered determination versus where are you showing up as ego-centered stubbornness? You have the power to free yourself from whatever it is, from that stubbornness, from anything holding you back, but it's only you that can do it. None of us can do it for you. But you may have to expose yourself to other possibilities, to see things differently. If you stick to what you know and only that, you will still have what you know and only that. So open up to possibilities. And again, so often we just need to experience somebody else's story. And if we remove stories like Ona's from the public view, we are doing a huge disservice to that determination of this and future generations. If a history of slavery becomes background noise, then it becomes nothing but abstract concept, right? We need to keep it real. If resistance is erased, then obedience becomes the default story. If racism is not exposed, then it continues to fester as an unchallenged norm in this society, and I cannot stand by while that happens. Black History Month exists exactly because of people like Ona Judge. Ona wasn't loud. She wasn't armed. She wasn't aggressive. She wasn't a public figure. She just refused to remain property. And that should not be divisive history. That is simply American history. And if it makes us uncomfortable, good, it should. I've said before up here, and I'm sure I'll say it many times in the future, I never want to get political, as in telling you, hey, choose this political party or that political party, or vote for this person or don't vote for that person. You will not hear me say that from up here. But when we talk human rights, by God, yes, I will talk about human rights any day, every day, until I am blue in the face, because some people never listen. So it is a minister's job, as we all know, to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. So if we are comfortable, get afflicted. If the truth makes us uncomfortable, that's the point, right? Find what is yours to do. Speak up for it. Stand up for it. Let us all live in a holy, holy way. Amen, amin, ahu, ashe. Namaste.